think so. Well, there's a lot to talk about always. And you
Yes,
got out
there
to a
is.
demonstration over the weekend?
We did. Huge No Kings turnout all across the state in Texas. And, Robert Hubble is doing this. I think it's one thing when, you see it coming out of Portland, you see it coming out of Minnesota, you see it coming out of New York, Chicago, all those places.
Yeah.
What I look for is what happens in Idaho, what happens in, rural New Jersey, what
Yes.
happens in Florida. And so for us, what I can tell you is that our Congressional District 6 here in Texas, our gerrymandered, never stopped being gerrymandered 3 times since 2020. I keep talking to folks. I got to tell you a great story. So I've been going and going. My parents came in on their way to go somewhere else, but stopped here in North Texas for a couple days, right? And it was my chance to just say, I'm taking a break because it has been nonstop. And I get in the car after picking them up at DFW Airport. And my mother says, "Oh, I just got a text from my friend who said that she saw there was a No Kings protest in Irving, which is where my town, which is the largest city within Dallas County that's not named Dallas, a city of 260,000 people, and we're 3/4 of the tax base of the county." And I said, "Well, that's strange, because we don't protest. Like, that's not our thing. We go to Dallas, we go to Arlington, right? We go to Fort Worth, we go to, we go other places. We're not really a protesting city." And so I thought it must have meant something else. So I go home, I look on Mobilize, sure enough, Irving, Texas. So I send it out to the Indivisible folks that I had actually met at our state convention, who had come specifically to ask that my group, Beltline Area Dems, which is that northwest part of Dallas County, set up a table at the No Kings protest in Dallas. And I said, "I'm not really a protester. That's not my thing. But here are 2 precinct chairs who want to do protests. You take them. Go." Well, so I text my Indivisible contact, and she's like, "Nope, no idea who's doing that." So then I put it in my precinct chair chat for my area. And I said, "Hey, y'all know who's doing this?" Nobody knows. Then I hear from another person who says, "Oh, I think it's so-and-so," who is somebody that I work with during municipal time, but hasn't been super involved in Democratic organizing, right? So I reach out to her. She's like, "Nope, not me." And I'm like, we're all like, "Who is this?" So somebody signs up. You can email the organizer.
Yeah.
So I do that. I email it. Nobody knows who this woman is.
Huh.
And so we go to the protest. I know almost no one there. This is in my city where I have been on the ground organizing the Democrats. And I knew like 3 people. And that was gold.
Yes.
Because somebody else saw a need.
Yes.
Took it upon themselves to organize.
That's the key.
And I was like, "I need this." And she was like, "I didn't know there were any Democrats organizing." And I was like, "That's me, but I don't do protests." So I had a clipboard because I don't go anywhere without a clipboard. And I just started passing it around.
Nice.
I had my name tag on, right? And I would just say, "Hey, what brought you here today?" Folks were so excited just to sign up for something, right?
Yeah. Those moments are gold. Yes. Perfect.
Yes. So 200 people show up in Irving, Texas for the first ever No Kings protest. Well, so then we go down to Navarro County. I take my parents down there, right? We needed to go to support my chair. Navarro County is Corsicana, Texas. It's our poor little stepchild of CD6 now. It's our one East Texas county that's left. Everything else is suburbia. 150 people, right? The paper's there. Midlothian, Ellis County next door, 350 people.
Excellent.
Johnson County in Burleson, 500 people.
Yes. Good.
Right?
Good.
Hill County, Hillsborough, 100 people. Right? Those are the protests that make a difference.
Yes. Excellent. Well, there are good signs, and yet there is also a lot for us to do. And we've got a pretty good audience here. I just want to say to everybody, Natasha Kay was scheduled to join us. I hope she is still able to show up. I hope everything is fine with Natasha Kay. Yesterday, she and I had a nice long conversation because we wanted to talk about Just the strategies that are involved, because a lot of time it's the Black community that feels left out.
Hmm.
And so I really wanted
Hmm.
Natasha here to represent. So it's not just us talking about it, but I'm sure Natasha will give me her notes and we will implement this more. But having talked,
Right. And we're going to talk more because my partner, Rob Shelton, who's running for the committee man spot. So I'm running for something, it's called the State Democratic Executive Committee. That is like the Senate for the Texas Democratic Party.
excellent.
And each congressional district will elect, right? We just had our county conventions. That's what I was helping put on, and I was exhausted, and that went right into no kings.
Mhm.
Um, then we'll go to the state convention. And that's where all the delegates in from every congressional district, and they will vote on one man and one woman to represent their congressional district on the state level. And so my counterpart is Rob Shelton. He's the vice chair of Ellis County Dems, that Dem group that had 350 people show up, with a massively promoted counter protest that had 8 people. So that
Yeah.
was also awesome.
Well, they've got all the money in the world, don't they? I mean, our
Yep.
opponents have all the money in the world. All we have is the numbers, and we have truth on our side. And
That's
it's
right.
great. I mean, and I want to always thank you for, because I mean, I'm one of these people too, where I work kind of in the media and I get frustrated, and it's because wonderful people like you talk to me, and I'm interviewing a lot of candidates, progressive
Hmm.
candidates. They're willing to talk to
Yes.
me, and we're actually bringing back the government to the people, and that's what you're seeing, this organizing. And
Hmm.
your notes are wonderful, where you often put on notes about, like, get involved in your community, make sure the election is fair, and we have to work on messaging too. And so, the
Hmm.
more you can
Yeah.
do within your structure, when you can get people to come and talk to me, so that real people are talking to these uh, candidates, because we have oligarch controlled media. And I'm just going to ask real questions. I'm not going to be
Hmm.
impolite, but I'm also not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to hand a list of questions that are like pre approved, because darn it, there's
Right.
things we have to talk about. And in my talk yesterday with Natasha, and again, I really hope Natasha shows up. Natasha is wonderful and she's brilliant, and we need her input, because she worked with the Harris campaign, and
Hmm.
she says in the DNC she faced a lot of racism. So I'm
Hmm.
trying to remember. It's a good thing I had this talk with her yesterday. I can bring these things
Yeah.
out. And one of the main things, it just has to be, we have to just denounce white supremacy. The Democratic Party has to denounce white. And what we said yesterday, we see too often where the Democrats are quite willing to open the door. Like, a guy can be a Grand Dragon of the KKK, and then he's like, "Well, I'm not that anymore." And the Democrats are like, "Welcome," and he's in. And then, but a progressive walks in, and they're like, "You got to get out of here. You're too divisive,"
Right.
is what it
Right.
feels like. So I want to throw that at you and let you have a comment or response to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, part of the thing that I see right now with the DNC, and I see this, with party politics. So, what I like to say is I'm a Texas progressive, I'm a pragmatic progressive, I'm where progress feels like home. So, I don't think that it's a progressive versus moderate. I think it is the language that we use. And you don't have to be, for example, this is the biggest thing that I saw with Mandani in New York, right? Now, the way that a lot of that stuff and that DSA socialism was phrased would not work in North Texas. But actually, if you look at how Mandani talks about issues, how Taylor Remmett talks about issues, how my candidate for CD6, Danny Minton, talks about issues, how a lot of our candidates here in Texas talk about issues, is just what makes very easy sense, and we don't try to explain, we try to invite. And frankly, the Republicans have done a really good job about that. And I think where my frustration with Democrats is that they often will say, okay, right, we're not going to go with a progressive like Jasmine Crockett because she's too this, right, all the racism.
Yeah.
But that's not actually it. It is, right, we can talk about issues. You earn the Black vote by talking about issues and making community. So you cannot just go into a Black church in September before the presidential election and expect that Black church to get behind you. That is obnoxious. And after, right, our primary, which was incredibly hard, right? Dem on dem fighting and right, just all around. And there were problems in both campaigns, like part of it, right? You just need to be honest, right? But what we know is that North Texas and East Texas came out very heavily for Jasmine Crockett, and a lot of us were really hurt because she has been the only one that is fighting for us right now.
Mhm.
And we don't, you know, we're worried. And losing her is hard. And so when the Bulwark actually came down here and they did a live show right after the primary, I was there in the front row with Tim Miller and Sarah Longwell, right? And they had James Tallarico on there. And what I heard from him is what I needed to hear, which is how he is going to earn the vote of the Black community. And he is not going to expect Jasmine
Yeah.
Crockett to do anything. And that's what I keep saying. Jasmine Crockett does not need to do jack shit,
Yeah.
right? I need to talk with my community leaders, right? And one of whom called me today, right?
Mhm.
And said, hey, I need you to come to this forum that's being put on by our Latino Chamber of Commerce. This is one of our Black leaders because this is an issue that we're having, right? I need somebody to come there with me. And I said, okay, right, I'll be there. It's showing up when you're asked,
Mhm.
right? And it's not me saying this is what we need to do or this is how I'm going to do. I say, how can I help? What can
Yeah.
I do?
Yeah. That is super important. I mean, but my issue is this James Carville problem. I mean, every
Mm-hmm.
time James Carville speaks, he drives vote. Oh, there's Natasha. Excellent. Yay. We got Natasha here. So well, I hope you're well. I was just worried about you, Natasha. So
I'm sorry.
Right? This is not going to be the Lisa show this time. This is going to be the I'm listening and learning
oh
because
no, we lost the camera.
I'm in front of greatness right now.
Yay. Are we back? Are you still there,
Can you
Natasha? We lost your camera. Or she's
hold
just
on.
cracking up.
Yeah, I'm struggling to get my shit together today. It has been
I, I
really,
know the
really rough.
feeling.
So are we
Well,
all.
let me just take a second, Natasha, when you get your camera figured out. But
I
I
mean,
want
I'm
to finish
here.
this
I'm
statement.
here. I can talk, but like I can't, I'll be on camera at some point, but I'm here.
Okay.
So you haven't
Well, let me
lost me.
catch you up because I was
Okay.
just mentioning the James Carville issue, and I would like to see the DNC. I think this is really important. I need to see Tallarico denounce a lot of the racist statements that James Carville's made, and I would like the DNC to just do some surveys because I've had a lot of people talk to me, and when they say they get a message and it has James Carville's name, that makes them less inclined to vote for the
Mm-hmm.
Democrats. And
Mm-hmm.
this is just not ever discussed. And I think we do have the power. We have to denounce top down people like Fetterman who are actively working
Oh.
against the Democrats. But there are toxins within the Democratic Party. And when I bring it up, I'm more inclined to be attacked and be called divisive myself. And yet
Right.
people like Carville are in this bubble, insulated bubble where he gets to say whatever he wants, sabotage the party to his heart's content. So how do we handle that problem?
So you're asking me my thoughts on how we handle that?
Well, I was actually directing that as I was waiting for you to get on your camera. I was directing that at Lisa.
Oh.
So, and then
Yeah.
we can have your
I mean,
response.
I will tell you, I agree. I got an
Yeah.
email from Carville and I was like, and I think you're
So,
seeing some of this. I'm not an expert on what's happening in California. I just know that some of my friends are starting to get whipped up about California, and I think that is part of what is the Democrats' problem is that right, we have to fall in love, we want these unicorn candidates, everything has to be perfect. So I think that, right, I often see that we get in our own way. And part of the reason I'm down here at Dallas Democratic Party headquarters is we have municipal elections going on. And, we're battling West Texas billionaires. And I'm battling some of the established Democrats who don't want me talking about that.
Mm.
And that's a problem. And so, we've got to, this is not your grandma's municipal election anymore. And it can be nonpartisan, but the Republicans haven't been treating them as nonpartisan in the state of Texas for 30 years. That's why we've been out of power because they were running in local elections and we run terrible candidates. And that's my problem right now. The Democrats that are running in my city are awful. So, I mean, I shouldn't say that. One of them is amazing. The other one, I'm not sure about yet.
Yeah.
okay.
But, right, unfortunately, nobody's actually, qualified to run my city. And that's a whole different problem. But, right, I can't solve everybody's problem. But I live in an incredibly diverse city. And, right, I mean, But that's how the Republicans build their bench, and the Democrats are terrible at building their bench, which is why Carville's still
Yes,
around,
we've talked
because
about that.
nobody has been able to drown him out because we haven't had a win since freaking Clinton.
Because of
We had
Carville,
the
I
Obama
feel.
win,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
All right, let's have Natasha. Now I'm glad you got all
Yeah.
sorted
Yeah.
up.
So
So
I want to know what you learned from the Harris campaign, because I certainly was on the right. I was a Harris delegate. She is my hero. And I certainly have my opinions, and I don't think it has anything to do with her. I think it had a whole lot to do with a whole lot of people that should not be running the Democratic Party anymore.
Yeah. Again, I can't, whatever I say is my own,
Yeah.
yada yada legal
Yeah.
disclaimer,
Yes. Don't speak for anybody but yourself.
Right.
Not for Kamala, not for.
Right.
We all got to
Definitely
get a
not.
job.
Right, right. But no, I, I've said this before. I think that there is definitely more that she could have said and done, but again, it's so hard to say, to kind of like say what exactly was the cause, because there's so many factors. There were, the people that said she should have separated herself from Biden. She should have denounced the genocide that we are participating in and funding and helping support in Gaza. And I understand that, but at the same time, um, and she accepts APAC money, I believe. Am I? I don't.
I think you're correct. Yes.
Okay.
Well, I mean, as a
I,
practical matter, I mean, right, we're sort of behind the ball. Every Democrat has been accepting APAC money. I mean, don't even
right.
get me started on my congressional district 33 runoff, which is like APAC versus APAC. It's just Colin Allred has basically denounced
It's kind of
APAC now. So that's at
selectively
least a start.
it's
Yeah.
selectively denounced too. I mean, there's
Yeah.
some you
Yeah.
never hear about Schumer and how much he takes, but you hear whenever they
Hmm.
want to illustrate it,
Right.
they weaponize it. But go ahead, Natasha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of that is. I feel like some people are willing to change. I feel like some people are, malleable and open and willing to listen to constituents. I've seen that with, personally seen that with Elizabeth Warren, and I have seen that with Stacey Abrams.
Hmm.
People, women like that, strong women who really will listen to the person and try to, you know, find a way to, mitigate that or look into it or something. There are very few, but there are some really good people in Congress and Senate.
Yeah.
But so I think that some people are able to be pushed. And I think maybe I again don't know her and unfortunately didn't get a chance to meet her while I was there. But um I th- personally I get the vibe that she could have been pushed. But
Mm.
also why I also don't understand why everybody is focusing so heavily on her stance in Gaza because, I understand that's kind of what the DNC put out, right? That's the narrative that, Ken Martin and the DNC are putting out is that, well, we couldn't do a full audit, but, it looks like the main reason is because she wouldn't denounce Gaza.
Yeah.
Not because she was Black and Asian, not because she was a woman, it was just because of that, and I think that's bullshit because we've
Hmm.
accepted that from everybody else, like,
Yeah.
this point forward. So, that's, to me, blatantly not specific to her stance on, Gaza and accepting AIPAC. I feel like people can change, and that's my stance on that, and I just feel like a lot of this, uh, talk about how, she should have done this and she should have done that, and there was actual objective racism that was occurring internally in that campaign probably every single day. I mean, it wasn't just me who experienced it. A lot of my colleagues experienced it. This was reported and there's articles in the New York Times. There are articles by Notice. Um, there are articles in Economic Times of India, things
Mhm.
like that reporting shortly after the campaign that black people on the campaign were discriminated against and, treated a specific way. And, a lot of that, we see these disparities when it comes to gentrification and things like that in neighborhoods. Well, that kind of like existed internally.
Mhm.
And, when you're holding back or withholding funds that were abundant,
Mhm,
we all saw how much money
Mhm.
her campaign
Yeah.
collected, abundant. So to have Black and brown organizers in battleground cities that made a big difference, like PA, who were not given the funds that they needed to hire more organizers because we needed to get the vote out there and we needed people's support, but they weren't
Mhm.
giving it to them. So they had to go rogue, as the articles
Mhm.
say, and they had to gather support from volunteers and meet in Dunkin' Donuts to organize on a campaign that was pulling in millions of
Yeah.
dollars. So I'm just going to be fucking honest with that. And you can see that on Open
Yeah.
Secrets. That's nothing new. It's just like
Yeah.
people aren't talking about it. So um, I think that that's, does that answer your question? I'm sorry. I just kind of
no,
No,
it's
but
good,
I think
perfect.
that,
rambled.
as somebody who felt, who was really in a battleground. I mean, we could have flipped that Senate seat. We could have. Colin Allred's vote was actually
Colin.
about 5 points ahead of the presidential vote. But the problem was we we here in North Texas, and that has changed, right? Because there's
Yeah.
folks like me in the last year who got really upset because, right, Kamala, in my opinion, was amazing, but the message wasn't great. And the RNC is so good because they have so much money. And I remember being in Ohio right before the election and saying to my husband, "Why is there a Ted Cruz ad on TV?" When it was actually a Bernie Moreno ad, because it was the same ad. It was all talking about trans stuff and all this garbage. But when the numbers actually came out, um, Colin did about 5 points better. And the numbers are better than Beto's numbers in 2018. We have the votes. The problem is, and I think this is exactly what you're saying. And if PA, which is an absolute swing state, wasn't getting the support, how am I going to get that kind of support in deep red
Mhm.
Texas, right? But we could have flipped that state if we had at least the infrastructure and we had the candidates that we have now, which is that we have a Democrat running on every single ballot in every single county. And that's 254 counties. And that's why you saw this surge in turnout. But it's a money thing, right? And this is my concern about Tallarico is that if you give all the money to Tallarico, $100 with
Mhm.
Tallarico is like giving me for my coordinated CD6 campaign $100,000 because I have layers upon layers of amazing candidates that are Black and brown and, you know, old and young and men and women and, right? We have this coordinated mechanism, but it's not sexy for me to say, hey, can you give, $100 to Pam Hampton, who's running for JP4 in Ellis County?
Yeah.
Right? But we're going to flip that seat. There are two Black women who are going to be
Well,
on county commissioner seats in Ellis County, Ellis fucking County,
yeah.
right? In Texas.
Well, how about
The-
this proposal though? Would Tallarico be willing to do a talk with that person, like you and Tallarico and this other? I mean, he's got the pro. And how about? I mean, would he be willing? Let's get Tallarico to talk to Natasha because Natasha's got an
Mhm.
important thing. Would you? I'm putting Natasha on the spot, but I mean, would you like to talk with him? And it's like because if he says, "I want to earn the black vote," okay, go out and talk to some content creators who are black
Mhm.
who have been, pushed down by the Democratic Party who feel like they haven't been resented, who feel like the Democratic Party hasn't come out and stood up for their vote. And we talk about we can't ever forget election integrity needs to be part of the discussion in an election as big as the United States. We can't just skip over that, and just say, oh, look what happened in Dallas in the primary. Oh, well, let's get behind the candidate now. It's like if
Yeah.
you want to say, I am going to earn the black vote, part of that has to be defending the black vote every single day loudly And yet when I make comments about that, I'm more inclined to get attacked by other liberals who are just like, well, we got to move on. You're being divisive. And they accuse me of and they use all the strategies that have done nothing but lead to loss after loss. So that's one of the things that has to change.
Mhm.
Whoever wants to go,
Um,
Natasha.
I guess, well, I have a question for both of you. So what would you say is the root of, if you could say, two things are the root of everything that we're seeing occur geopolitically,
Whew,
domestically, as far as fascism, as far as um,
brutal.
the increase in white nationalism across the globe, in Hungary, and all of these, in the World War, and all of these things. What would you say are the two most contributing factors right now to those things, like to the reason why the bad things are occurring?
Mhm.
Lisa, go. You
All
want
right.
to start?
Well, so I would say number one, it is Democrats since probably 1992, and you got to remember 1992 was the first year I could vote. So, um, not running a 50 state strategy and a
Mhm.
down ballot strategy, and recruiting right the entire time, as well as being singularly focused on a goal of winning elections, which I think the Republicans have done. They were singularly focused on flipping the Supreme Court to get rid of Roe v.
Yeah.
Wade. But in that line, right, they have dismantled the Voting Rights Act. They got Citizens United, which is sort of my second thing, right? Citizens United has made it so that a city council race in Irving, Texas, for a single district is going to cost $30,000 at minimum. And even then you might lose because I'm up against a PAC that is funded by West Texas billionaires that can go to candidates and just say, don't worry, we'll just do your campaign for you. You don't have to do anything. We'll just tell you when to show up.
Yeah.
And there aren't any, right? They're breaking all these laws. There are no campaign finance filings. There's nothing. There's just, right? And so I think to a certain extent, we Democrats have been fighting Democrats and fighting the wrong fight,
Mhm.
And I'm not saying break the law. I'm saying, like, right? Sometimes you got to push some boundaries and piss some
Mhm.
people off.
Yeah.
And I have pissed a lot of people off.
Mhm.
And one of my takeaways, right, was that in my city, in my district, which is, right, very religious, right? We have one of the largest Muslim, the largest Hindi, right? The largest Black church, the largest evangelical white church, right? Um, and a whole bunch of other communities. And if we as Democrats don't engage with our faith communities, which is frankly where folks go, right? And you can't say, oh, we're going to be all ACLU because the other side is not doing that, right? They're just not doing that. And so that's why I have, made it my mission to make sure that we are, that I'm recruiting precinct chairs who look like their community. And that's sort of been my issue. When I went to No Kings and I saw all these folks in my city that I didn't know, I didn't go up to the people that were like my parents. I mean, my parents are part of the baby boomer generation. My mom said, yeah, we know how to protest. That's what we did. And so I think that's what you see a lot as these protests is a lot of old white people, right? Which is
Mhm.
great, right? I love
Yeah.
that. But I need young folks to knock on doors. And what you don't see is Black and brown folks because they were working on Saturday. But to the extent that, I just start working the crowd and I start
Yeah.
finding out, right, and I don't know, is that sort of right racial targeting? But I don't need any more white people in the Democratic Party. I got plenty of those who, right, have plenty of opinions that I don't agree with. I'm ready to hear somebody else.
Oh, and that was a great answer, and I gave me a second to think of mine, so I'll get a pivot to that. But I wanna right away, I wanna say it's because Democrats surrender the messaging. They
Mhm.
surrender the messaging war. And right away, I wanna just give Lisa credit for being here and engaging in this space because it's a little it's this is an emotional kind of topic, because and so I give credit to both of you for being here, but this is really big. I mean, this is our first step as we get to know and just speak openly about the things that bother us without having to expect to be attacked, because
Mhm.
until now it's been you have to be with the party line or you're divisive and you're part of the problem or and so you're living and breathing and showing that you're willing to listen to other perspectives. But yeah, Lisa, and the more we can do that, and I've been doing this where I've been reaching out to all these progressive candidates. We need to have robust primaries. We can't have anointed
Mm-mm.
candidates
Mm-mm.
because then you have 3 or 4 or 5 people in a primary. They go through the whole district, they get name recognition, and then they can fill all those other seats. And it has been the establishment Democrat strategy to not have primaries. They get haughty about primaries. They say, this is the candidate we want. This is the one that can fundraise. If you don't vote for that person, you get fascism. And then we're
Yeah.
always getting yelled at and lectured. And
Mm-hmm.
so the messaging, and so you being here is really important. And if the more candidates we can get, I mean, if we can get the bigger name candidate, I'm serious about Talarico. If he wants to come and talk to us, but any of them, any of the candidates, I am happy to talk to them. We can talk about strategy. We're building here, and we can build a rational messaging mechanism, that combats the Joe Rogans and the Fox News and the Tucker Carlsons and all those other things that are out there. We shouldn't have Democrats going on to Fox News. They should not be normalizing those because they do. They talk to people like Steve Bannon and they normalize that message. And we can't have Democrats doing that anymore.
They do
Why
that
don't you
every
talk to
single
me?
day. Ken Martin
Yeah.
goes on there. They don't post those ones on their socials, but if you just look at Fox News,
Oh,
and just see what they're up to, you'll see they literally every single day they're interviewed about what's being discussed in the Senate and House and yada yada, and then they just sit there and entertain it, and
yeah, they got to push back. Yeah.
it's but the thing is, again, I just don't know if I believe as a whole, I don't know that they want to push back. This is the status quo, and they don't want to ruffle anything, and they want to keep things at the way that they are. So,
Yes.
um, for me, at the root of everything, the issue is like white supremacy.
Mm-mm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Yep.
But I don't know like your guys' thoughts. I was kind of going like, what do you guys think is
Yes. Well,
is it power? Is it white supremacy? Is it, what do you guys
yeah.
think as far as that?
Well, definitely. My second one was going to be the failure to act, and that's maintaining a status quo. And we were talking about this yesterday. In 2020, we gave the Democrats all the power they needed to stop the rise of fascism. If they just appointed a competent AG and held everybody accountable, during
Mhm.
that time, the Supreme Court came out with the rule of, the president is above accountability. Then use it. Biden was in office when that came out. You're above accountability now. Stop this. And we've got concentration camps where and the way the papers say it, underage, that they're sanitizing of the
Right,
terms when it's so offensive when they say underage women are testing positive for pregnancy. That's girls are being raped is what the
right.
headline should be
Yeah.
should be.
Right.
And we have to win back that messaging, but we don't have any kind of a messaging, but it's because, and exactly like Natasha said, white supremacy is playing with a lead. We're in a white supremacy nation. They're ahead. They don't have to score any more points. They just have to delay. They have to run out the clock. They have it really easy. We're the ones that have to be active to change things. And what that means is when the voters come out and say, we want this guy to be our president, they got to start holding the lawbreakers accountable. And we have to just recognize the Republicans are breaking a lot of laws. They've been breaking them for as long as I can remember. But
Right.
again, white supremacy, it's only laws for people that aren't, of that privileged class. They don't ever
Mhm.
intend to abide by the laws. So, yeah, I agree with you and completely on that, Natasha.
What
I'll,
about you?
I'll let you go
Um,
next.
Y- Yeah. I mean, and I live in, right, a tough state, but I mean, but I also live in a minority majority state. I mean, when I leave the state of Texas and I go back east or, I go to Portland, it jars me. There's like way too many white people. It doesn't feel like home. And I'm not using that to say that like white supremacy doesn't exist because it absolutely does. Do you want to know why Texas doesn't vote? It's because of white supremacy, right? Um, but it also has to do with, showing up. And if Democrats don't show up, and that's partly why I went to Navarro County, right? Like Navarro County has like 37,000 voters. Like there are not a lot of voters down there in my district, right? But it's really important because Navarro County has actually a lot of Black and brown folks that feel like Democrats don't listen to them and don't show up for them because we don't run candidates down there because you're not going to win. And that's kind of my feeling is that unfortunately the Republicans have made everything so expensive. And maybe this is what white supremacy is, that you can't run a good campaign without lots and lots and lots of money. And, I think how the Democrats the DNC has phrased that is right, that we don't want primaries that cost a lot of money because money could be used elsewhere. Well, my problem is you're not actually using it elsewhere. And primaries are great. Like I talk about this CD 33, where I've got Julie Johnson, who's our sitting congresswoman for Senate District 32, which she got gerrymandered out of. And it is now in a runoff with Colin Allred, who used to own that Senate District 32, who was running for Senate, then came and jumped into that. Well, they were in a 4-way primary, right? So you had it, which actually was really kind of cool. So you have a white lesbian, a black man, a Muslim, and a Latino, right?
Perfect.
So, right, who all had different kind of ways of campaigning and whatever. Well, that meant that a lot of voters were contacted, right? And so we ended up with a lot of voters who voted in that primary who now are engaged. And we saw that at our Dallas Democratic Convention. CD 33 had this massive, they are now one of the biggest district in Dallas County, and they're actually the only one that's wholly within Dallas County. We now have 6 congressional districts that are all gerrymandered all around the rest of the state, but CD 33 is this big X. So, for example, for me, the little part of the X that's in my city is a very heavy Muslim area. And so I just started, right, and that was, frankly, he was the most progressive candidate. He was endorsed by Lone Star Left, which is Michelle Davis is somebody you really want to hear about progressive politics. Good. And she's on, I share a lot of her Substacks. Michelle Davis and Chris Tackett are 2 people you really should talk to, who are on the ground and dealing with this white nationalism and right, the stuff that's taking over our school boards. And Chris is really good at talking about that.
Okay.
But the point is that I identified very quickly. And so I could start talking with him. And as a result, he was able to recruit somebody to run for city council who, right, we are now running in that district as opposed to the white Republican who, right, does not represent that district. And so, right, it's that forward planning.
Yeah.
But, and right now we have him as a potential bench, right? This is my other problem with Democrats is that we have a lot of, you saw this in CD 18, right? And that's, a black district, and Al Green's running for that. But we've had 2 people already die, right? If we don't start retiring and we start term limiting, so that young people can start running for city council and run for commissioner. The Dallas Democrats control all the commissioner seats in Dallas, right? And we've had the same. I can't even remember when the last one was elected, right? And they just always keep getting elected. But if you don't, right? But then you're not turning out the vote if you just keep getting elected, right? So,
Natasha, thoughts?
Yeah. Stewart mentioned that they need to lose because they take black votes for granted, and we be in a worst case scenario. And I've been saying that too. I've been seeing it, especially on Threads. I don't know if anybody's on Threads, but people are pissed at the Democratic Party, and they do take the black vote for granted because. Again, you can see, like I explained earlier, on the campaign, they didn't give those funds and resources to the black leaders in PA and North Carolina. They could have done so much more. But they were hindered from doing that. And, all of a sudden after the campaign, there's no money. I think that, obviously they take the black vote for granted. That's why we have situations, because of the racism that they refuse to address within and externally that they accept. And that is why, they continue to lose. But again, I don't know, if they want that. I feel like as a whole, it's just turned into like a controlled opposition party. It is not working as a whole. They
Mhm.
are still voting for things that are harming us as
Mhm.
human beings, as Americans, as Blacks, as Indigenous, as trans. They are still doing these things and causing human rights crimes every single day. And I feel like the supremacy is at the root of it all. And if we're not talking about the things that are at the root of what's causing it, like white supremacy and, all of the things that both of you mentioned, I feel like are under that umbrella. Like everything is
Mhm.
made to make things
Yes.
harder for people.
Yep.
$30,000 to run in a campaign,
Yeah.
$3,000 for a local election. Still, that's a lot of money,
Mhm. Yeah.
for somebody to come up with. Like, that's daunting. And that's one thing I hate to do. I hate sales. I used to work
Oh,
at
I know. I
Blockbuster.
keep saying I am not a fundraiser, right? Like,
I
oh my
don't
God.
want to sell. I don't. I hate it. I don't like being gimmicky. It just makes me feel icky. So I
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't want to fundraise. And, $3,000, that's a lot of money, Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's daunting, but all of these things all of these systems are built to make things harder for us and only, built for the wealthiest to be able to do these things. And that's why you have these supremacists
Yes.
infiltrating the school boards. It's easy to pay them a few $1,000s and have them start spewing shit all over Facebook.
Yeah.
And, you've got the idiots, Trumpers, in your area. I have this in my area. I don't know if this is like, I don't even know why I entertain it sometimes. I think a lot of it is bots, but
Yeah.
you've got them spewing these things and it's like a local school board, but it runs so deep. And the root of it all is like
Mhm.
supremacy and power and not giving people, not hearing us and not acknowledging that they are a part of the problem and that they are continuing to accept it and pass laws that enable us to continue killing and genociding people in Lebanon and Iran and um,
Yeah.
just everything that's happening right now, building concentration camps here in the United States,
Mhm.
putting essentially children in jail.
Yeah.
These are things that are happening right now, and a lot of it is supremacy. It's because they hate Black and brown people,
Mhm.
and they want to ethnically cleanse us. That is
Mhm.
Mhm.
objectively like what is happening here. So any candidate in my eyes now, my litmus test like keeps changing, every single day. I think of something else and I'm like, you know what? Fuck that. They have to be against this too. And I feel like it's impossible to find anybody that checks all those boxes. But I do think there are people that are willing to, change and willing to hear and willing to listen. I don't think every single person is bought and paid and whatever. I do think, but it's just really hard. And until the Democrats want to acknowledge their racism and their part in accepting it and continuing, all of these things and not talk about it, um, to me, it's just bullshit. Like, so is Tallarico like staunchly denouncing white supremacy everywhere he goes because that's the root of everything that's occurring right now. So does he talk about that at all? I don't know.
I'm
For me, that's like a really big thing, like to just acknowledge these things.
Yeah.
Uh, you,
yeah.
you don't have to talk about it all the time, but these seeds, these things need to be said. And if
Mhm.
you're not saying these things out loud, that's a problem for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you're not
I
gonna
mean,
talk to people who are gonna ask you those questions
right.
Mhm.
and and you're gonna gatekeep who you allow to interview and things like that, then that's a problem for me. That's a red flag.
Mhm.
Mhm, mhm. No, I mean, I certainly, and I can't obviously can't speak for the campaign. I'm not a part of his campaign at all. I do know some folks in his campaign. I think he can do better, but I will say what Tellerico has been, and I first met him back in 2024 because he, rather than right our Senate candidate, was actually coming to the rural areas and talking with folks, and that's how I learned this language. Like that's how I learned who actually controlled politics in Texas, who are two right? They are two
Mhm.
West Texas billionaires who are absolutely white supremacists. That's who they are. They are Christian nationalists. That's who they are. And so he actually speaks quite well about that because that's who controls every single Republican in the state of Texas right now.
Good.
And Tallarico has drilled that down, and he has taken that message, and that's partly, I think, why he ended up actually winning the primary, was because he had gone and explained to a lot of these places that don't have a choice. And I just want to say that again. If we do not run candidates in all 254 counties in the state of Texas, and there is no choice, right? Then, you just think Democrats don't care. And so he was able to talk about how bad these people were. And then we worked really, really hard to elect our progressive young chair who could recruit, in all these 254
Good.
counties, and
Yeah.
recruited a whole lot of people of color, including, the candidates that I'm supporting, two of whom are running in a very, very red county and are Black women, who are
Great.
probably going to win because we are going to, they're knocking on doors now.
I'd love to talk to them too. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Bring them on. It's so important. And thanks again. I mean, I know there's so many frustrations, and that's the thing. And it is so easy for us to just, you see the enormity of what we're up against, and it's easy to overlook the hard work people are doing. But I keep getting back to things like, it's not enough to just say, hey, I will earn the Black vote. And then we're like, applaud. And then it's like, okay, what did he do? It's like there was nothing that do something right then. And one example that comes to mind is every single election, you have white districts. Oh, look, takes 3 minutes to vote. I'm in. There's 100 machines. I vote. I'm out. You go to a predominantly Black district. There's one machine. There's a line, and we expect everybody to wait for 12 hours to go and vote, and then they're turned away. And it happens every election, And I know, Lisa, you've made really good comments about this. It's like, be involved in your community, see the people that are doing these, organize these things. But I think we need more and more pressure. We need to make sure, especially when there's chaos like there was at Dallas, because that's bad optics. I mean, that's just bad optics. It's going to drive away a lot of voters, even if it was entirely the GOP that did it. I'm sorry, but Tallarico's got to be the one because he appeared to have benefited from the suppression of the Black vote. He's got a pretty big responsibility to ensure the Black vote is counted. And I think, as to what Natasha said, we've seen the Democrats, they feel entitled to the Black vote, but they do not work to defend the Black vote. And they certainly don't listen to the Black community. And so it's like they only rely on them to the extent that they can give anointed white people power. And then it's just off to the side and forgotten again. And so, yeah, let's just make sure every vote is counted in these places. Let's get rid of these long lines. Let's make it so it's like, make that like a national conversation. And election integrity should be part of that. Nobody should have to wait 8 hours in line, and that's become normalized, and that's a problem. Thoughts,
Yeah.
Natasha? Yeah.
Thoughts are, has he said anything about the fact that he benefited by um, sitting down with Stephen Colbert? Or um, you know, did he say anything about why he gave Joe Rogan any air?
Mm.
Has he talked about those things at all?
I mean, he certainly has talked about that, and I will push back on that a little bit, which is, I don't think that that Democrats, like, for example, I really disagreed with, you know, uh, uh, his name is escaping. I can't. My brain is so broken. But I don't think if I'm having a podcast, I'm not going to have Joe Rogan on my podcast. But I do think it is important that we go on in spaces, where, and that's partly the Fox ecosystem, They have a whole ecosystem that they now control. CBS, they were singularly focused on controlling the media. And so, the Republicans started radio, like Black with Glenn Beck, I mean, all those guys, And if we don't have either a counter narrative to that, or if that's where potential voters go, then, I think there is something to be said. I mean, his Joe Rogan interview helped a lot of who in Texas I call, they aren't really Republicans anymore. They just haven't had something better,
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be able to offer that something better. And that's what I saw in this No Kings protest in my own city, right? I can't even reach all the Democrats in my own city. How is Tellerico supposed to meet is persuade all these voters.
Yeah.
So I do think there is something by going on those spaces. Now, I don't think you should be agreeing with them. And, I think Tellerico pushed back pretty hard on a lot of that stuff. And, I did not see that interview, but I certainly heard about it from a lot of people. But he does talk about going into spaces, and that's, why I go into our rural red areas, right? We go into communities where, like, people are scared to say they're a Democrat. And partly we have to keep showing up because, let me tell you, the Ellis County Republicans are really scared. Like, they are really, really scared because we just keep showing up and making a lot of noise, Like, everybody in Dallas now knows CD6 because I have been making a lot of noise.
Good.
Right? A lot of noise. So, that's kind of, yes, Tellerico has a lot of work to do. And I'm going to be one of those people who is going to be pushing him to do that work. Because if we want to flip this state, you better turn out South Dallas and South Irving and Grand Prairie, right? And parts of Arlington, where you have Mansfield, where we have a very large Black population that has been completely and utterly taken for granted. And you need to start talking with those folks now and talking about what matters to them and, right, not what matters to you, right? I mean, that's...
Rogan probably didn't even extend an invitation to Jasmine Crockett, though. Am I right about that? And so that'd be something I think would be another case where I think it'd be fair. I like the idea of these cooperative primaries where if you're getting, it's like, I'll come on, but you have to bring on my opponent too. And that'd be a thing I think we could insist on.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a national platform thing that we need to start asking for. And that's why being a part of the party is actually important, right? These are rules that we can change. But from a national perspective, the party has been controlled by the president, and the Republicans, right, do their own thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's, if you only run a national campaign every 4 years and you forget about the country for the rest of the time, I think you do that at your own peril, right? And that's not, I mean, that is the Black vote, right? Only showing up and asking for the Black vote every 4 years and just expecting it is not democracy.
Right. So I just have a lot of issues with him and the Joe Rogan thing. And I would want to see more about that. I would want to see, there would just have to be a lot that would have to change my mind and my views on him right now. I personally don't have a good vibe, but that's my vibes. But also they're right 10 times out of 10 usually. Like, I'll say 9.5. Okay. Like, something isn't right. But I think people can change, and I don't know him that well. I don't know, but I don't think that entertaining white supremacists was okay. And there's so many factors as to why. Everything was unfair. And the way that they are and had criticized Jasmine Crockett for that loss was because she was a Black woman. If it was anybody else, we wouldn't have been criticizing them, but you hear them say she didn't get out enough. She didn't, have as much money, not enough people wanted to donate, like as if she was this like poor Black woman who just couldn't pull it together. And, it's like, y'all are fucking lame, to be honest. I'm just going to say, in my opinion, like, as a man, a grown man, I mean, if you're going to entertain a white supremacist, do it right there with your opponent and do it together. Just extend that. But you've got an advantage and you've taken that advantage, and I want to hear why you took that advantage and how you're going to change going forward. But I'm not sure if we'll see that, and I'm just very skeptical. But yeah, that's my thought on that.
I just want to say, this is just, I feel it's so important. And Lisa, you're not
Mhm.
directly associated with the Tallarico campaign, but that's just kind of like Texas politics at this moment. So, and he said it, right? He said, "I need to earn the black vote." Those are his words. All right,
Mhm.
let's have some conversations with some black people, and rather than him just make that declaration and it's done and we applaud, we say, "Hey, we want to see step one, two, three." And what we're doing right now is this just little step of the first step of like the process of let's engage each other a little bit more. And so I applaud both of you guys for being here and just offering these thoughts. And we can do it unapologetically. I mean, to this extent, the establishment system, it just browbeats you where you feel like you're not allowed to say what it would be. It's like, this is
Mhm.
what I need to see from you in order for you to support. Well, how dare you? They say those things.
Yeah.
And so the two of you are creating this space, the three of us are, where we're actually starting that more productive conversation. And if it does feel a little bit emotionally challenging right now, but I just wanted to say I applaud you both for being here and just giving up your time and being vulnerable. And I think we'll grow from there. We'll get a little bit more confidence with each other and a little bit more understanding of each other. And just little by little, as these things go into the conversation, we'll win then, right? And ultimately, what we all want to do is win and defeat white supremacy and defeat fascism and stop little kids from getting raped in detention centers. That's what we want to stop. And so, yeah, we're allies in this. And yeah, I just appreciate you guys for being here.
Yes. Yes.
No, absolutely. And I really appreciate Natasha you coming on and um just helping me understand all of these things on a very right from a different perspective. I obviously see what's going on down here. But I think what we saw in Dallas County, I think what all of us saw is how important our vote is. And I'm hopeful. I mean, we're all really, really tired. And, that's partly why I'm continuing to work because um, I know my Black sisters are way more tired
Yeah.
and they need a break. And it was an emotional loss for me. And, right. But I do know, and I will just, I don't know what you've heard, but we're all pretty sure that Ted Cruz is going on the Supreme Court. And,
Oh,
What?
Jasmine, yeah.
As
man.
a
So,
Really?
judge?
yep,
Justice?
yep. Which
Does
means
he
that we're
have
going to have a
his
Senate seat open in
JD?
28. Yep.
He's an
So,
attorney?
oh, yes. Yes, he is.
Since when did
And
qualifications matter to this
yeah, I
regime? They
mean,
probably
right,
get,
right.
yeah.
But no, he actually is an attorney. I know some people who used to practice with him.
Dear
He used to
God.
be not as crazy, but
What?
yeah.
He was not crazy?
Well, I mean, there's crazy and then there's crazy.
Yeah,
Before
I'm
he
sure they
like
have some
sold his
stories. I
soul.
would love to hear those.
Um, yeah. But
Sorry, I just got
what
me off
what
guard.
we
Thank
are
you.
certainly seeing from those, what I have heard
Yeah.
from people who know Jasmine well, and yeah, this is she's starting an actual like right. This first go around was just like a
He should be on the
testing the
Supreme
waters.
Court.
Yeah. If you have
Um,
and an open invitation, Jasmine Crockett, if she wants to come and talk,
yeah,
Natasha
Yeah, I would
too.
love that, and
I think Jasmine, well, she's continuing to fight in Congress for us. I mean, she's
Yeah.
actually continuing to show up and do her job, which
Yes.
I am
She's
extremely
fantastic.
grateful for because we got some other reps who were not doing that. So,
But it's people at every level too. I want to talk to every level. The more people we can get
yeah,
just involved and yeah, making these spaces and getting and more the people that come along and listen and this will get shared. And it's just I know this last couple of years. Well, and here I am saying I'm tired too, and I'm the old white dude. So it's like I'm the least qualified to say something like that, but we've learned so much about the corruption in our society, but we've also learned that a lot of it is due to this idea that we don't have power, we're pushed aside, we're
right,
told our voices don't matter, we're encouraged not to say the things that we know to be true. And in this space right now, we've made the first kind of steps and saying a lot of things. And I've tried really hard to have just a lot more conversations between the black community and the white community because that is divided. And we were talking about the demonstrations, but the black community is not safe at these demonstrations. If the cops show up, we know who they're going to go after first. So demonstrations are a white person thing. I understand that. And yeah, but we continue to have these talks and this is a safer space where we can do it. And the more once you see that crack of daylight, it expands fast because people are fed up with having, the wool pulled in front of their eyes. And it's just, there's
Exactly.
so much evidence of corruption right now, it can't be ignored anymore. Everybody's coming out, everybody's more engaged. So it's a positive time.
Yeah.
Final thoughts, Natasha, as we start to close in. We're over time and we can finish up here.
Yeah, final thoughts. It was really great meeting you finally as well. And seeing your couple of lives. And I don't know much on the ground level when it comes to Texas politics and the gerrymandering and, the districting and how all of that works. So that's really interesting. And I know Texas is huge. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of nuance with that. And, your insight is really, gives a lot of perspective into how people think and what's going on down there because I'm so far removed. Yeah. So, and then, I mean, I think that we're all on the same page. I think we all want the same things here collectively. And I feel like, this is a safe space, and we're all able to discuss these things and maybe not agree wholeheartedly, on certain things, but that's okay because in general, we have the same, the morals and values and at the heart of it, that's what matters more. And we're not arguing about human rights or
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know things like that. We agree that on equality and all of that and the fact that white supremacy exists and the fact that it is ruining everything around us right now. So, the fact that we all want to fight against that is great, and I'm glad to have like everybody here that continues to, show up. I appreciate you guys inviting me and pulling me in all the time. I've still just can't get my shit together as far as like punctuality. It's just like gone. I like preface every conversation like, I'm sorry, I just can't be on time anymore. I can't.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that must be why I adore you. You speak my
so
language. The only reason I
yeah,
was remotely on time was because I decided not to get the car and go home.
yeah. Just trying to like juggle a whole bunch of
Yep.
things in real life and on here.
Yeah.
So yeah. But it was really great having this talk with you all.
Yeah.
I appreciated it.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Lot to
so
think
much,
about.
Natasha,
Yeah,
for your
we
time
definitely
and for Walter.
again. Definitely
Yes,
need to do
as
this again.
always.
Absolutely.
And no, and I want, I would love for you to get to know more of the folks down here, because, right, this is where the work is, and this is where the local work is, and we changed Texas, and it's over. And there are a lot of folks who
Yeah.
are trying really hard, um, and but there are a lot of wounds, and so we have to have some very frank conversations.
Yeah.
But we're Democrats. We can do that, right?
Yeah.
I like to say we can do hard things.
Well,
Or at least we say, I'm a Texas Democrat. We all know how to fight.
yes. Well, and I think this is a big one. This today was a really big one. It's a step forward, and we're bringing groups together that otherwise, I mean, that it's just been ongoing. There's all these people that I've reached out to, and this week I'm interviewing 3 different candidates. Anybody, if either of you want to jump in on one of those interviews, Michigan and I think
Ooh,
Virginia, I'm just interviewing everybody I can talk to, every single person I can, spread the message a little bit more, and we're just learning about what the whole nation looks like. And what I'm discovering, and I'm really discovering, is there's so many people of integrity, their different backgrounds. They're fed up. Everybody's fed up and they're willing to listen now. And I mean, I've been a writer for a long time, and there's stuff that I'm saying now. 2 years ago, I would have completely lost my entire following. And I know I
mm-hmm,
always have my finger on the pulse of what people are willing to hear, and I'm just like, this is a truth I want to say. I've got to
yeah,
write these 30 articles to get to what I want to say. It's like writing a book. It's like, here's the revelation. I can say that stuff now. And, I keep telling people it seems like there's so much, we're up against so much, but it's like we're peeling away the illusions. We're having a better idea what's going on. We are gaining strength. It's like erosion. It happens slowly. You take the foundations from underneath and the structure will topple. And so that's what we're getting to. So everybody, please, yes, integrity, Lynette says, integrity and authenticity. And yeah, Liza, or I said Liza, Lisa, you've been saying, I apologize,
yeah,
but you've been saying, and a lot of people have been saying the same strategy. It's the school board elections, it's the down the ballot stuff. And because we've seen, there's all these, Francesca Hong in Wisconsin,
Mhm.
who is a state representative. She can't make a living on that. So it's
No, oh
like
no,
these
you
white
can't. You
supremacists
can't. Yeah,
No.
you can't.
and
You
white
can't.
supremacists, they install people in these positions of power that people can't make enough to live on because they're all funded externally. And so we need
Hmm.
people that are, we need retired school teachers and things to take on these in jobs that are like, okay, you're only getting paid $3,000 a year or whatever, but you get to select who the superintendent is. There's all this power and it's all kind of structured that way. And it's expensive to run for those positions and there's no payment. It's like if you had to design a corrupt system, it would look like what we have. But we're understanding that, and our knowledge is our
I'm
power.
gonna say you won't look no further than the Keller ISD School Board in Tarrant County. You will see corruption at every.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Interesting. I
Yeah.
will
Oh, honey, you want to hear all? Yeah, yeah. I could go on and on because, like I said to Walter at the beginning of this, it's municipal madness, and the PACs, the West Texas Billionaire PACs, they have a different one. We should have a whole. I can do a whole nother thing on municipal elections. I mean, that's
Is Adelson by any chance one of the ones you're referring to?
no, no, no. So Adelston is specifically in my city. I can tell you all about that. But
Miriam?
yeah, yeah, Miriam and the West Texas Billionaires fight. This is when we say, "Ooh, MAGA's fighting." I love that for them. Yeah, which kind of goes back to the white supremacy because Miriam's Jewish. The West Texas Billionaires don't like her.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I can go. Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
we'll do it. And again, this is an ongoing conversation, and I plan on working as hard as I can until the midterms and sleeping for like 6 months. I'll just
yep.
disappear for a while, but let's do it. Let's do it. And the light in the light in the darkness is getting to meet wonderful people like you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. And I think I keep saying like 10 years later, we got to have this big Substack banquet, and we just got to pat each other on the back and say great
Yeah.
work during this hard time.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome.
And there'll be pie.
Hmm.
There'll be a lot of
Yeah.
pie. All right. Well, let me just say, please
All right.
subscribe.
Thank you.
Subscribe to Natasha. Subscribe to me. Be involved. And again, thanks. We'll plan the next
Thanks.
one.
Thanks, both of you. And yeah, no, it's great getting to know you. And thank you, Natasha, for your wisdom and your voice and giving me some things to think about and
Thank
to push
you.
people on because that's how we do it.
Thank you. Yeah. Same to you. We have to do this again. Definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. I got to go take a nap. Okay. See you guys.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Bye.